Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's Nadir bin Nasib, the founder of MuslimMoneyMan.com, and I'm extremely excited to be here today with OutstandingMuslimParents.com and to really be part of their team. I'm excited because about 17 years ago, before my first daughter was born, I was always wondering, how can I, in this new deen of mine, I had recently accepted at Islam, and how can I, in this new deen, be able to raise my children to be a good Muslim, to be proud of Islam in the West in particular? Okay, with so much pull from society and so many different things that she would have to face that I didn't necessarily have to face. So, I've been studying it, looking for different techniques and different strategies to help really raise children. And alhamdulillah, I came across some good stuff, and I came across some stuff that was okay. Okay, but unfortunately, I think that there's a huge lack of techniques and strategies and really mindsets to be able to show us as Muslims on how to empower and equip our children living in the West so that they turn out as good Islamic conscious Muslims who are proud of their deen in the West, and they tend to be leaders as opposed to the followers. Okay, so this is what I mean. I know that as Muslim parents, we want our children to be successful. Now ultimately that success only means anything and is worth anything if they get Jannah. So the ultimate success we want for our children is Jannah. We want them to have paradise. We want them to also benefit us as their parents. See, the job is so strong and so well respected in Islam that Allah Ta'ala blesses us for that. Alright, one of the things that can benefit us after we pass on from this life is a righteous child that prays for you. SubhanAllah. So that means after we're gone, we've raised and we've invested in this child who's become a righteous Muslim. They make dua for us. And that goes on our scale of good deeds. So there's very few things that are more important to that. All right, I've heard a long time ago that our children are the gifts that we leave for the future. So we need to know and be empowered on how to raise righteous Muslim children. We want to become outstanding Muslim parents with our deen, especially in the West. Because the pull, again, the gravity is so strong from so many different directions that can easily lead them astray. But if we equip them properly and make dua to Allah Ta'ala, then we can probably raise some outstanding Muslim children. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. So, here's the deal. Sometimes there are some challenges that stand in the way of raising strong Muslim children in the West. One of them could be the parents' upbringing. Okay? So, the parents can be raised from another country and not necessarily know the landscape here in the United States, for example, or if you're in the UK, or if you're in Australia or Canada or whatnot, just talking about the Western world in general, because there's a different landscape. That's where the Muslims are considered a minority of the population. So, if you come from a different landscape, where the society is different, the children, you may have a disconnect where the children are raised somewhere and it's not like back home, if you will. So, those things that existed even back at that time are totally different now if you come from a different country. Then, of course, there's people like me. I was born and raised here in the United States. My parents are from here in the United States. I used to be a Christian. So I came from Christianity to Islam, alhamdulillah. I came from Kufr to Islam. Now, with that, though, they still live in an entirely different time than I live now. And my children live in a different time than I did as I grew up. So there was no Bluetooth and cell phones and all that kind of stuff when I was coming up. You had to pull over and use a payphone. Alright, so technology is fast advancing, and even during my parents' time, they could look at their parents who came from a time where a lot of the men, when they went out there, wore suits and hats, and the women wore dresses and gloves, and there was just a different society at the time. So the parents' upbringing, number one, can be a challenge, and we want to take it from being a challenge to being a championing cause in raising their children. Then the second area, since we live in that new fast-paced world, we have to be well aware of what's going on with technology, with different forms of media. We do not want to inadvertently disempower our children. See, some of the things that they receive negatively, we may not understand, but we've given it to them. And I'll talk about that shortly, inshallah. Then, of course, we have new customs, new ways, new traditions, things changing in this fast-paced world. So, what I want to talk about in particular are some models that OMP put together. And alhamdulillah, I really like these models because it makes it very simple for us. The first characteristic, if you will, to becoming an outstanding Muslim parent and really just putting this thing together, really hammering it down, is that role model. But that role model has a name called celebrity. Now, many of us know what a celebrity is, whether people like celebrities, don't like celebrities. We know what a celebrity is. That somebody has some type of fame. They're kind of notorious. They're all over the screen. And they get promoted all over the place. Whether good or bad, their habits are still being looked at and the spotlight is put on it. Well, us as parents, we are that celebrity. Think about it. We are the best friend and only friend that newborn baby had. Right? Mother, father, abu, ummi, that's it. You know, they saw us, they wanted to be us, they were everywhere on us, they were crawling at our ankles, crawling on top of us, slobbing on top of all of this stuff, right? We're the celebrity. So when we offer salat, then your children see you offering salat, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but you know what they do? They get out there, just Allahu Akbar, they fall on it, or they might move the sajada while you're praying, your prayer rug. So we are that celebrity. They look up to us. So as that role model or that celebrity, we want to make sure that we are well-rounded in that area. And then there is the confidant. That's that first teacher. The confidant is the one that is aware of the changing things in society. The confidant is the one that keeps the child informed. That's the one that can read between the lines. Okay? So this is just a broad overview of the different areas. So the first one, excuse me, the first one, again, is a celebrity. The second one is the confidant. That teaches the critical thinking skills. The third is the coach. Matter of fact, let me write this for you. Make it easy, right? So we have number one, celebrity. Then we have the confidant. Then we have the coach. All of these are very important. And in each of these are certain and unique responsibilities. So the coach, for example, the coach is not only a cheerleader, not only one that encourages, the coach is the one who really teaches discipline. See, the coach can see your skills and talents in you that the coach may not even possess. But the coach's job is to hone those skills, hone those talents, and really to bring them out. He's also there to encourage, but also there to make sure that that person, this child, commits to it. Now, of course, the person may not know the wisdom of the coach. They may not know why they're doing certain things. Kind of like the wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi thing from Karate Kid, if you're familiar with that movie. All right? But the coach is extremely important. So with these three models, what we've come to find is properly utilizing these three areas help you become outstanding. One of these areas, well, you could be good, and you could be a great parent. But all three of these can become outstanding. And that's what we want to do. We want to help equip people in these three different areas. So, here's our challenge. The challenge is that this is designed for three different age groups. Of course, there's going to be different things when it comes to critical thinking with a child from, newborn or young to 7 years old. All right, when they're learning so much and their brain cells are just growing and they're splitting, they're asking questions, and they're in their early development stages. Then, of course, there's the 8 years old to preteen, where the bodies are now taking on more changes and so on, and they're becoming more mature, beginning to see things in large perspective. Then, of course, there's the teens, which are, of course, the young adults. They've been through some changes, constantly going through and trying to really figure things out, moving toward adulthood. So, again, I don't know where you are, but I would like to lay a nice foundation, inshallah, with these three areas. For example, we talk about the models. And the model, keeping in mind, the model is that celebrity. And if you have children, you already know, like me, that you may have things in a certain area, and they're gone. That's why I'm using this trusty piece of paper towel as my eraser, because I'm missing some markers, erasers, because, as children, as outstanding as you can be, sometimes your things come up missing, and you have to improvise. Indeed. So, let's talk about the celebrity. Well, the celebrity has a few things that they must be doing. You'll recognize that this is not some training program on teaching you how to have some specifics for your child who's just undisciplined and doesn't listen. So what do I need to say to them? Because every child, just like every person, is different. Every parent is different. You have different styles. So, inshallah ta'ala, you can take the principles that we teach, implement them in your life, and design a plan that's effective for you. That's the goal here. So with the celebrity, because again, we by default have the celebrity figure because they look up to us. They look up to us. They were looking up to us for a while. And they can even get to a certain age where they might not think so, but they're looking and they're hearing and they're paying attention to what we're doing. So it's very important not only that we're consistent, but there are a few things that we found help a person become more effective in their parenting. So with the celebrity, if you're taking notes, I definitely suggest you take notes and trust a short pencil over a long memory any day. Celebrity. The first thing is the prayer. You have to guard your salah. So prayer. This is very important because this is the only deed that Allah Ta'ala says, you know, on Yom Qiyamah, on that last day, this is the first thing to be looked at. But this is the only thing that once this is looked at, and if it's okay, you won't be judged on anything else. You straight to Jannah. Alhamdulillah. Not any other deed is talked about in such reverence as the salah, which of course is the first pillar after our shahada. So the second pillar of Islam is salah. Your prayer. Now what's important about that? Your prayer. You as the parent being vigilant about your salah and being visible about your salah. So when you're at home, or if you even go to the masjid, they know you're going to the masjid to perform salah. Okay? You're at home, you're offering salah, children need to see it. They see it, they will imitate, they will emulate the same thing. So when it's time for salah, they hear the adhan or the iqamah, they will come, they'll line up. As babies, they'll come, they might move the sajada, move it around and stuff like that, but they see it, it's a part of their daily life. So that's very important. See, it is best as a parent, if you're going out to the mall, you're going shopping somewhere or whatnot, and you know it might be Salat al-Asr that is coming in 30 minutes, well, it's important to find out and know when you're going to pray. I don't know if you may pray in your vehicle, you may pray right there in the mall, you know that you have wudu before you're going because it's smart, because you want to be vigilant, you want to be that example. See, when I was coming up, there was something I really didn't understand, and I didn't respect it even at a very young age. That was when my parents said something like, you know what, don't do what I do, do what I say do. Now, though I didn't talk back, my mind instantly said, you know what, don't do what I do, do what I say do. Well, why aren't you doing what you tell me to do? So my parents are both smoking cigarettes. They, you know, don't smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke cigarettes. Do what I say do. Don't do what I do. Now I don't smoke, but alhamdulillah, we don't do that. But I never understood it. That was really confusion. But with that confusion came a lack of respect. I can look back at it now and see that, okay, you tell me to do this, but then at the same time you do something different. Didn't really get it. Somebody's calling you don't want to talk to, telling me you're not here. It's okay to lie in this situation according to what you're telling me, but not if I'm telling you something. All right? We don't want to create the atmosphere of that distrust. We want to be vigilant. We want to protect our salah. We want to do it no matter what. We want to get up. We want to have the alarm. We want to have that atmosphere of Islam. We want to have that atmosphere of an outstanding parent that practices what they preach. That is the first part of celebrity. The second part, pride. Now, when I'm talking about pride, I'm not talking about the arrogance that people sometimes associate rightly to pride, where they go around puffing their chest out and, you know, all excited to put their nose up and look down at other people. No. When I'm talking about pride, I'm talking about being proud of being Muslim, being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blessed us to see the truth of this deen. So you're proud of being Muslim. You're not the Muslim that goes and you're scared. And what I mean by that is, oh no, now you want to go and oh, I'm going in public and I don't know, and I'm going to take my khimar off, or I'll just wear it around the house or just around other Muslims. So you go out to mesh into the rest of society. Or you see brothers that they don't grow their beards because they might get looked at as Muslims. Or they're scared to wear a kufi or something like that. Even though, you know, these are small things. But they're proud. Do you want your child to be ashamed of being Muslim? What kind of personality are we upbringing? So as an outstanding Muslim parent, we must be proud. See, you're definitely proud when you know, hey, you know, it's time for salah. We have to offer salah. We don't want to miss it. So it's time. You pull out sajada, pull out a piece of paper. Really doesn't matter. Find some clean grass, cement, sidewalk, wherever it may be. That goes back to being serious about your prayer and living it and having that sense of pride for this deen. Okay? Not again that you're feeling you're better than other individuals in particular, even though, alhamdulillah, only Allah knows. But we want you to be proud and grateful that you are Muslim wherever you are. Someone sees you Muslim, well, of course I'm a Muslim. Why are you Muslim? I can't believe you're Muslim. I've had relatives say that to me. Well, because Islam is the truth. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so you have to have that gratefulness and that pride in Islam. You have to be able to be willing to defend it, if you will, to stand up for it when something is going down. So, pride. All right, my marker. Then the third area, you have to be present. Present. What I mean by this is we must always be able to have, at all times, the ability to explain a situation with Islamic principles. So, hypothetical example. You're out driving, you have your children with you. You may see summertime, people are half dressed or something to act right, and people are arguing in the street. Well, we could talk about society. We could talk about arguments, fights, and so on and so forth. We could talk about the Islamic principles and the Islamic way to do things. We could be talking about watching a news broadcast and seeing what's not said. And that goes more to the confidant we'll talk about next. But we have to be able to always be present. So when we go into a store, not only are we Muslims, of course we're probably Muslims, alhamdulillah, and we're there for our children, but we must also recognize that the whole process is going on. So if you're buying some fruits, or for example, you might be buying some shrimp, and you see the ice, and then you may weigh the shrimp to purchase at the grocery store, and that's one trick of grocery stores. They have ice and stuff. They basically charge you for the ice because it's all clumped in together. Well, we should be able to easily talk about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he talked about those who wet the wheat for it to weigh more and oppressing the people in the marketplace. So we must be able to always be present and have an Islamic thought process when something occurs or what we see around us. Doesn't matter if you're in your home and things look Islamic and you're Muslim and stuff at home, you're comfortable. See, it's outside of that comfort zone or comfort area where those thoughts and ideas must be transferred, implanted into your child so that they can grow. So that is the first area. That is the celebrity. Those are just 3 areas we want to make sure the celebrity is well grounded in, inshallah, because these are the things that you have to really transfer into your child. Now, let's go to the next one. The next one I really like because the next one is confidant. So I really like all the areas, but confidant is a very special area. It's very unique. And many times it causes parents to need to get some extra education, if you will. So we have the confidant, right? I'm spelling it right. So we take the confidant. The confidant, number 1, is insider. That means the confidant knows the current trends. The confidant actually knows what's going on. That's very important. Because do you want to have a disconnect with your child, or do you want to be able to be on the same level or same page or a few steps ahead? It's always best to know what's going on. So to be an insider, meaning you already pretty much know about social media. You know what's going on. You know the good things for social media, you know the bad things of social media. You know what's going on with the media. You know what's really going on with the Muslim world, the different countries, and you know what's going on with politics. So the insider must be able to take information that they receive, be able to filter this information, read between the lines, and form their own opinion. Now, it's not necessarily easy, but it's very important. Because, think about it. If you look at the history of the United States, a lot of people look at people of color here, particularly black people or African Americans, for example, as just being, they were taught for a long time, my ancestry was taught, you know, Africa was just a bunch of jungles. Okay? You were savages over there, so on and so forth. But you know the truth about Africa, whether it be the Muslim areas of Africa or throughout Mid-Africa, all the way down to South Africa. You know, something totally different. You know about the land and the richness of the cultures. So there are some very important principles to be learned when it's to be an insider. So when you know about the civil rights movement, for example, you have to know what was behind it, what caused that groundswell. Then you see what naturally happened with drugs entering the community society as a really a containment measure. So we have to be able to be an insider to know what's really going on. So you can see a news story and say, you know what, it's interesting that what they said. Well, what didn't they say? And to be able to explain that to your child, have a conversation back and forth so that they can become enlightened as opposed to being part of just that following, this mass following of individuals who just don't go against the grain and don't think for themselves. It's very important to raise thinkers, and one thing Western society has lost the ability to do is to produce thinkers, and we know why. But it's our responsibility as outstanding Muslim parents to be well aware of what's going on, well aware of the tricks in order to protect our family from this, all right, or from this type of influence. Now, that is the first area. You must be an insider. The second thing is that you must be insightful. Must be insightful. Must be insightful. What does that mean? That goes more into reading between the lines, being able to communicate and know what someone is saying, to understand that the words they are using is only about 7% of communication, where body language is over 58%, I believe. So, and then there's tonality. So these different methods of communicating, whether it's body language, whether it's a smirk, a look, we do it all the time. Children do it with us all the time. Just because we communicate with our mouths and speak does not mean that's the only way you communicate. So we must be insightful enough to know how we're communicating, to know how we're setting an atmosphere of communication if we're open. That's a very, very important characteristic for a parent. A child must be able to come to you with things, be able to trust you with things. Not that it's easy, but they should be open with you, whether it's you, your spouse, if you're married or whatnot, or you as an individual. So subhanAllah, must be insightful. And also, again, insightful goes more into reading between the lines and having critical thinking yourself. Now, the third area for the confidant is that the confidant must be innovative. Innovative. What I mean by this here is that the confidant must be able to bring Islam into the picture and show how it provides practical solutions for today. Unfortunately, a lot of the conditioning of the West, a lot of the school system, a lot of Orientalists have convinced people that, you know, Islam is something backwards. It's for the Dark Ages, which is actually pretty interesting because Islam was in the Golden Ages while the West was in the Dark Ages. And subhanAllah, now the Muslim world tends to look like it's in the Dark Ages right now only because there's a detachment from Islam and its power and its structure coming from the source. May Allah Ta'ala return us to glory once, of course, we change what is within ourselves and return to this deen. So what I mean by this being innovative and being able to provide solutions today. For example, let's talk about the electrical grid or the system in the United States, for example. Where I'm at in the Midwest, there are companies that handle the electricity and gas. Well, in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ talked about human beings sharing in three things. One of those three things is fire, which Mujtahideen have made ijtihad on, reduced a ruling that's saying, you know, fire is dealing with electricity. So a person or a private corporation cannot own this natural resource. This is for the people. So out of these three things, we should be able to bring forth something that makes sense today right from Islam. Because we know that there are only a few sources that we go to when it comes to the Sharia, when it comes to rules. So, of course, it's the Quran, it's the Sunnah or Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Ijma' Sahaba, and Qiyas. Those are the four things that are typically agreed upon across the stages. And I'm not here to teach fiqh because I don't know it, I'm a student. But we must be able to take a situation and show how Islam regulates it. For example, if you're going into a fair or a carnival, and there's different events or different types of people, different foods, all these different types of things, we can talk about how Islam regulates it. When we talk about schools and the school system in general, they have in the West, they have some religious schools that are all boys, they have religious schools that are all girls, even non-religious schools. We could talk about how the Islamic system is set up, where the school system is in this fashion, where we talk about traveling and the importance of traveling. When you see things happen like many different kidnappings or women going out without mahrams and so on, you know, we can show just the wisdom in this. We can show even the wisdom when it comes to the marital system. And if you know the story, the best man, or the history of the best man, we talk about marriage, just for example. The best man is the person who is the best man for the job, because the job entailed a man kidnapping a woman, beating up her male family members or tying them up or whatnot, and snatching her and marrying her. This is true stuff. You should look it up. It's hilarious. However, we know in Islam there's a wali, there's a wakil, so the person must address that father or that person, and there's a whole system and a lot of wisdom behind it. So it's important for us as parents to be able to take the Islamic principles, the Islamic rules and regulations, and apply them in our situations today so that our children understand its relevance. And they know where to look for the source of the law and how to live their lives, as opposed to getting it from other people or saying, you know what, as long as I feel I do what's right. Well, Islam didn't come from Islam, means submission. So we must submit to the program. That's the confidant. Again, first we had the celebrity, then the confidant. Now, let's talk about the third area, which is the coach. And many of us already know how coaches are and how effective they are, and really have our own definitions for them. So, but there are three things in particular the coach should be very well at. One, the coach must be vigilant. Coaches want to win. They want to be champions. Now, being vigilant talks about discipline and commitment. Discipline and commitment. I remember coming across a quote that said, you know, champions are just recognized in the ring, but they're made in the gym. Or it's kind of the other way around. I said, champions are made in the gym, they're simply recognized in the ring. Very important statement, right? Because there's training that goes on. There's nutrition that goes on. There are a lot of things that happen that people don't see. There's no glitz, there's no glamour, there's no fame. None of that goes on. But when it's time for the show, when it's time to show up and show out, that's when the person gets recognition. That's when you see the discipline that was put into them. That's when you see the commitment of a trainer or a coach that constantly was there encouraging, constantly there not taking excuses, making sure the person was able to get up and get after whatever it is they were moving for. Now, alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity to be that coach. We have the opportunity to go ahead, be that example. Okay? We have that celebrity. We have that confidant being disciple. Now we have this coach area. And the coach area, very challenging. Because as coaches, we must be committed. We must show up for them. We must show discipline. All right? Now keep it in mind that there are principles that we talk about with discipline. Now discipline does not mean punishment. We'll talk about the difference between discipline and punishment, inshallah ta'ala, in the future. However, discipline and commitment. So that means the coach must be vigilant to see it through until. One of the best definitions I heard for commitment was doing whatever it takes until. See, how long will we give our children to learn how to walk? What? We say, listen, you don't get this thing up in 12 months. I said, I'm just going to carry you for the rest of your life. Is that what we do? No, of course not, right? They're born with the proper equipment. They're born with legs. These legs are going to take some time to develop. They were squished up all in the womb for a long time. They're going to get time to really straighten out. They're going to be holding on the sides of cribs or whatnot, going up and down and strengthening. They'll be crawling. They'll be learning their balance, get the equilibrium right. And when it's time, they're going to go ahead and hold on to edges of furniture and move around. But when it's that time, it's that parent that constantly encourages. But when the baby's ready, that's when the baby's going to walk. So it's our responsibility to be vigilant in it. We want to know that we're raising champions. We want to know that we're raising strong Muslims. In order to do that, we must be vigilant as coaches to implement and put inside of them what's necessary. We must see it all the way through. We must take a commitment, be serious about it, ink it out, if you will, get it done. That's our responsibility. That's the very first area the coach has, which is not light by any standards. So the second one is vision. The amazing thing is that vision, extremely important. Many times it's not valued. Because to have vision is something totally different than have sight. I think Helen Keller said a long time ago, she said, she was in an interview and somebody said, wow, I can't really think of many things that can be harder than not being able to see, and not really have sight. And Helen Keller said, I feel bad for those who have sight but no vision. And I learned that based on associations that you're around, you could be with people that are either starving your dream or they're expanding your vision. Which are great people to have around you, those who expand your vision. Well, the coach has to have vision. The coach already has experiences that the children don't have yet. See, our children haven't been through as much as we've already been through. Whether it's from a different environment or a different country or what have you, we have a lot more experiences, and experience is kind of a funny teacher. because you go through it and you get the lesson later. Where academically you tend to get the lesson first, and maybe not, you'll eventually go through it or you may need it in the future. All right? So being that coach, knowing that we have vision, we have to show them what the future holds. And alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity to do that through Islamic stories, looking at different prophets, sharing stories from childhood. One thing is that we make an emotional attachment when we share stories. When we share how we handle stuff, when we share our successes, but really more importantly, our failures. So, subhanAllah, we have that opportunity. And with that opportunity, we have to make sure we're building the vision for our children. We know when something happens, they get out of line. We help correct them, get them in line. It may call for discipline, meaning they learn the lesson behind this thing, they strengthen themselves and move forward, or it may call for punishment. I had to get that out. So, that's vision. Very important for a coach to have, because if a coach doesn't have vision, doesn't really have belief. We want to make sure that belief is there. The children have to understand and feel that belief coming from our hearts and our love. So, that's the second area. The third area is that the coach must be and constantly have a mindset of victory. Let's say victorious. Victorious. Yes, victorious. Because, honestly, who wants to be kicking it with a losing coach? Be on a losing team. Nobody want to be on that victorious team. We already belong to the best ummah. We belong to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We already belong to the best. We can look to the stories of the heroes that we have, the Sahaba. We can look to the Sahabiyat. We can look to the scholars, the travelers. We can look to the astronomers. We can talk about all these different victories, right? But we must also focus on that victory that came from us as our offspring. So a coach must be victorious. Not only must you have vision of what can happen, what likely will happen, inshallah, but you must be victorious. Constantly having your eye on the prize. Not letting it off, knowing that obstacles are just kind of getting in the way, but when an obstacle gets in the way, it's because you took your eyes off the prize. Right? Some of these cliches and some of these sayings may be a little funny, a little weird, but you know what? They have a lot of truth in them. So to be victorious, we must be focused on victory. What is that victory? Jannah. We want to get to Jannah. That's it. We want the best for our children. We want them to be successful. We want to get to Jannah. Then it's our responsibility to take it serious. We must be focusing on victory. So these are just 3 areas in each of the 3 areas. So when I talk about the celebrity, the confidant, and the teacher, these are 3 areas with 3 areas, or 3 branches, if you will. So I'm going to erase this off of here, and I want you to do an exercise. This is what I call a parental checkpoint. Okay? I want you to think about, ask yourself, what are 3 things that your parents did when you were younger that you really appreciate now? Maybe you appreciated it at the time. Maybe you didn't. But name 3 things, or write down 3 things that your parents did, actions, activities, said, whatever it may be, that you really appreciate looking back at it now. Or again, you could appreciate it at the time. But just name 3. It may be a whole bunch when you reminisce on it. But name 3. Take your time. I'll be here for a second. We could always pause the video too, right? Great. Maybe you got 3, you wrote quick, or if not, that's fine. You could also take a little bit more time, inshallah. Now, I also want you to write down 3 things that your parents did that they might not have done so well, or that you did not appreciate. That list may or may not be longer than the first list, but just 3 things. Take 3 things that your parents may have done not so well. And when you're done writing that, I want you to write down next to it the lesson you could learn from that. So the lesson you could learn from what they did not so well. Still here. All right. I'm going to leave you with this last exercise, inshallah. This one, I really like it because it gives us a report card. Many of us haven't had a report card since we left school. And one of the things we want to make sure we're doing is we're checking in on ourselves and our parenting skills, because we don't want to get that report card saying, hey, you know what, you failed. because they are horror stories. None of us wants to be a part of these horror stories, and they're serious. So I'll just share with you a few of the things that I know when I'm talking about these stories. One of the things that really got me passionate about participating with the OutstandingMuslimParents.com project is not only just having my children, but seeing that when I came to Islam and I accepted Islam, I saw a number of people that had young kids. And alhamdulillah, beautiful young kids. And now, since I've been Muslim, I've seen a number of these kids grow up to adult age now. And some of them, a lot of them, unfortunately, subhanAllah, a lot of them don't know this deen, don't care about it. Some have even apostated. Just, it's really a sad situation. And that's the last thing a Muslim parent wants, is to have their child grow up under their watch, get older, and have no care for Islam, have no respect for the deen. That's the last thing you want. That's on the opposite spectrum. They're not going toward where they're supposed to go. We know that the path to Jannah is filled with all these other despicable things, these hard things, these challenges and stuff like that, and all of that to Jannah. But the path to Jahannam is easy. It's glitz, it's fame, it's glitter, it's all this extra stuff. Right? It's very attractive. And I've seen so many Muslim children grow up to go toward this route. They actually were running towards what we were running from. We were running from Jahiliyyah to Islam. And we see a lot of these children grew up and they're running towards what we used to be. So they're running towards Jahiliyyah. SubhanAllah. So that really breaks my heart. And then there's the other children. Their parents didn't come. Their parents were not born here in the United States. And we talk about that a little bit more on the OMP project, where there was the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Then there was the Origins Act in 1965, which allowed non-white Europeans to actually immigrate here. And it was a huge movement. It was very, very important. But a lot of the people that benefited from that, that come from the Muslim world in different countries and whatnot, actually owe that to the people from here. They owe that to the civil rights movement and don't know it. So there's a lot of classism and racism that still goes on. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be addressing it. But it bothers me because these parents come and they don't know the society. So their children are growing up how I used to be in Jahiliyyah. So they think that, hey, you know what, just send them to the Islamic Center or, the masjid on the weekends, let them go to Sunday school, send them to a Muslim school, and they'll be okay. As though it's the school's responsibility to raise your child. As though it's the school's or the masjid's responsibility in a Sunday school to raise a good, healthy Muslim. That's not holistic. That doesn't cover their entire life. That's not even proper thinking. See, when I was back in Jahiliyyah, used to be Christian, they used to think the same thing. They say, you know what, send that boy to church, he'd be in Sunday school and so on, and we didn't care. We would sleep in church in the pews. In Sunday school, we would screw around or play with our friends and stuff like that. It really had no effect on us. And this same type of thing or thinking from parents who are ill-informed are doing the same thing to Muslims. So the Muslims go to the masjid like, yeah, whatever. They sit in Sunday school like, okay, yeah, I'm here, to appease my parents. That's not a recipe for success. That's actually a recipe for something else. So to head that off, we want to do and make sure we're giving ourselves a checkup. So this is what I want to ask you to do. One, I want you to rate yourself in these different areas. As a celebrity, how well do you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? Say, 10 is the best. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well are you rating yourself as the celebrity? How diligent are you when it comes to your salat, your prayer, your pride, and your being present? Rate yourself. Give yourself a report card. Now when it comes to the confidant, rate yourself as an insider, insightful, and innovative. Rate yourself. Scale of 1 to 10. Now as a coach, rate yourself there as well. Vigilant. How vigilant are you? All right? Vision. As well as the final area. Victorious. So, how strong are you in these different areas? Give yourself a report card. On the flip side, I want you to do this. My marker. We have different goals for our children. All right? And with these goals, we have traditionally, I think they're about 5, 6, or 3 or 4 actually. And this is usually what it comes to. It comes to that we want to make sure that they're spiritually healthy. We want to know that they're grounded in Islam. They have strong iman. We want to know that their physical health is good, and we also know that their academic or their educational health as well. So we want a healthy child, but we want them healthy in these different areas. So again, spiritual health, physical health, and the educational health. So I'll just ask you, looking at your children, your family, see where they stand. So let's do this. We're going to make a wheel. And I kind of call it a balance wheel. So just draw a circle. And for these, the areas I named are spiritual, physical, and educational. So it's 3. If you have more than that, that's fine. You know, different parents have different things. So for this, I'm going to put spiritual, even though that's a really vague term. It's better to just say Islamic. But Islam covers all of them. I want to say spiritual. I want to talk about physical health. And this one is going to be educational or academic. What I want you to do, in the middle, just circle this here. That's like the number 0. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Make a line with 10 on each of these. 10. All right. Now rate yourself here. So, for example, let's say if you're looking at your child and they are about average, or they're about let's say they're 6 on their physical health. I mean, they could work out more. They could be doing a lot more physically, drinking more water, getting more activity, eating more alkaline foods. Then let's say they're about a 6. So I'll take this one, this line here for a physical line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go 6 all the way to 6. And then just shade this area in. Doesn't have to be pretty like you're making art, but this is the physical area. So this is 6. Educational, that's pretty easy because you can look at report cards, right? So let's say child is 7, doing pretty good in school. If they're in school. 7. Oops, 7 would be here. Then shade that in. More than one child, of course, do more than one. And this is just your assessment. You don't have to share this. This is your assessment so far as where you feel your child is. Now, let's say Islamically. Now, let's say you may want them to learn some juz. They might already know a few juz. They may know Arabic. They may know fiqh or aqidah and so on. But if they don't, let's say they don't. This example, let's say there are 3. There's some goals that you have for them, but there are 3. Of course, you fill this area in. Behavioral stuff going on. The lab is not proper, so let's just go here. And again, this is hypothetical. I'm saying you have bad kids necessarily, or bad children, bad behavior. Now, this end result here that I'm looking at is a wheel. Okay, remember this entire circle. And obviously, when you think about a wheel or a tire, it has to be completely round to go ahead and get some traction and really go down that road of life, if you will. So we have some work to do. We have some work in each of these 3 areas, try to get them out to be as optimal as possible. We want to do whatever we can do to try to encourage our children to become 10s. And it's not just some lecture, talking at your child and so on. We want to take things to another level. And we want to do it properly. We want to do it in an encouraging way. We want to do it as a celebrity, that confidant, and that coach. And as we get better, inshallah ta'ala, we build a stronger family unit and a better foundation for our children. Okay, because we want to become outstanding Muslim parents of outstanding Muslim children. So with that, do that for each of your children. Do the same thing in a self-evaluation for yourself in these 3 different areas. And inshallah ta'ala, look it over, think about it, and we'll go through some more techniques. Make sure to visit us. If we got some good information here today, then share it. All right, share the information with your friends. Let them know to go ahead and sign up on the OutstandingMuslimParents.com mailing list. We'll send more free videos out, different programs and stuff that we have, different seminars as we speak, and different webinars that we have live online, and different workshops as well that may be coming to your area, your different masajid, inshallah. Man, I look forward to speaking with you maybe sometime soon, or if you have some topics or questions or something may not have been right. Hey, let us know. You have some strategies or techniques you'd like to try, or some questions, inshallah, go ahead and email us at info@outstandingmuslimparents.com. With that, I do appreciate you sharing your time. Jazakumullahu khair. And remember that a wish changes nothing, but a decision changes everything. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.